Now, most of y'all who regularly watch my little videos know that I'm not prone to talk seriously about politics or religion or race or current events. Most all of us have tended lately to overdose on those things, but the other day I heard a statement by some news pundit who said that our nation has never been so divided as it is today. Well, history demands a thundering challenge to that remark. I offer a few examples of divisive conditions. During the 1770s, only about a third of the American population wanted to separate from Great Britain. A third of us wanted to remain British subjects, and the other third really didn't care one way or the other. I'd call that divisive pretty severe, since some of the bloodiest battles were fought during that time between the rebels and the loyalists. Both groups were Americans. Then only about 80 years later, a little family argument we know as the Civil War cost us some 600,000 lives. And about 50 years after this war, our people elected Woodrow Wilson because he opposed our entering the war to end all wars in Europe. But against the wishes of much of our population, America entered World War I in his second term. Then in 20 or so short years after that, we again were faced with a decision to enter the Second World War, which was opposed by a huge segment of our people, including such dignitaries as Charles Lindbergh and Joe Kennedy, who was our ambassador to England and was John F. Kennedy's father. Only the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor galvanized the decision to fight in that one. And those of us who wore the country's uniform remember vividly the friction between a large part of this country and the military during the Vietnam conflict. I use these conflicts and disagreements to emphasize a single point. Not only did we survive these disagreements, we emerged from them a stronger, more unified country. And so we shall now. Now, most of y'all who've listened to this so far have not murdered anybody, nor have you been convicted of armed robbery or burglary or extortion or looting. You're honest, hard-working folks who pay your taxes, vote, donate, worship, and support your family, just like most of the rest of the country. This group is commonly referred to as our land's backbone. Well, there's a funny thing about backbones. Without one, you'd be helpless. But how many times have you seen yours? Maybe an X-ray or an MRI, but you probably haven't actually seen it. And the same condition tends to exist with the backbone group. The country would flounder without it, but it most often remains silent and unseen. It emerges when a real crisis occurs. But until then, the little loud groups of misfits and naysayers and malcontents fill the news. Don't fall prey to believing the constant babble of dire predictions by the unreliable press. They thrive on conflict and unrest. You're boring to them, but you're the glue that holds this wonderful nation together. And now that the Independence Day parades and balloon fests, barbecues, and fireworks have just ended, I think it'd be appropriate to list 10 guidelines that Abraham Lincoln left us to help us in maintaining the framework of democracy in this nation of free people. 1, you cannot bring about prosperity by discouraging thrift. 2, you cannot help small men by tearing down big men. 3. You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. 4. You cannot lift the wage earner by pulling down the wage payer. 5. You cannot help the poor man by destroying the rich. 6. You cannot keep out of trouble by spending more than you earn. 7. You cannot further brotherhood of man by inciting class hatred. 8. You cannot establish security on borrowed money. And 9. You cannot build character and courage by taking away man's initiative and independence. And finally, 10. You cannot help men permanently by doing for them what they could and should do for themselves. And finally, the Hitlers and the Tojos and the Mussolinis and the Stalins and the Mayos and the other despots always fail in time because there's an inherent need in people to be free. Remember that if you're an American, you're free, and you live in the greatest country on earth. So keep the faith. We'll be fine. I'm Jim Ritchie. I'll see you again next time.